Hello and welcome to a very special podcast series. And today is International Teachers Day. And we have some fantastic individuals right throughout the series starting today as we're coming to you from the Overseas School of Colombo. Well, it was actually known as the Overseas Children's School. It's a very special podcast series because it's like coming back home as far as I'm concerned, as far as our guests are actually concerned. So what we're doing, of course, is we're bringing back some of the old students at different times of graduation. And also we've managed to bring back some old teachers who've actually taught us at that time and just go back in time, be nostalgic, talk about the memories, talk about the place that we obviously owe it to as far as the early part of our lives right here at the Overseas School of Colombo. On the show today, on our first episode, I've got Miss Geraldine Rasiah. Miss Rasiah taught me in grade 2. Right, so that's how long she's actually been here. And we have Murtaza Jafferjee. Murtaza, you were your class of 1988.
That's correct.
1988. And of course, we got Aamir Akbarally also on the show with us, and 2018. Yeah. So as you can see, it's a diverse group that we actually have, and that's exactly how we will sort of progress as far as each of our series, the episode in our series are concerned. Firstly, Mrs. Rasiah, happy International Teachers Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the series.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and as always, just before our series, we talk about some of the old times as far as OCS is concerned. Now it's OSC. Mrs. Rasiah, you've actually been in school, you were in school for about 42 years, am I right?
Yes.
And you graduated, I was just saying graduated. You retired last year.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. So, can you sort of look back and think about the first day of OCS for you, the first day you came in to teach right here?
Okay, so I actually started my career in Muttai Road, when it was the Overseas Children's School.
Right.
And I started as an assistant in kindergarten.
Right.
So after 2 years, 2 years later, I was given a class, and because the numbers grew and there was a third class had to be opened. So I became a teacher, and what I vividly remember is orange desks in my class.
Orange desks.
No AC, just the fans, and that's the vivid memory I have, orange desks.
Wow, that was when, Miss Rasiah?
So I joined in 79, so maybe 2 years later down the line. You can do your maths.
Wow, okay. And we obviously have lots that we need to basically get into as far as teachers and teachers. There are lots of teachers who actually walked in and walked out, which we're basically going to get into. Murtaza, thank you so much for coming. You're a frequent visitor to school.
Well, my last time was 2018.
Right.
If I remember correctly, to give a speech on Founders Day.
Right.
So that was my last time. But then I visited after many years. Although I must say that although I left in 1988, around about 1996 I came here to do an exam.
Oh, really?
Called the CFA.
Okay.
And this was an exam center. And I remember some of the teachers were the invigilators for that exam. It's called Chartered Financial Analysts. Now they, of course, do it because the numbers are very large.
Yeah.
They do it elsewhere.
So Murtaza, back in time, of course, you graduated in 1988, and of course, you were also right throughout your early years at OCS?
No, so I went to 3 schools.
Okay.
I started at Royal College, and then round about early grade 6, I was sent off to a boarding school in India, a place called St. Paul's School, Darjeeling.
Right.
For 2 years. It was like a military camp.
Okay.
Very tough. From a very spoiled background in Colombo, where I had an ayah called Sopi, to a very tough school. I only managed 2 years there. And the OCS schools started opening up for local kids.
That's right.
There was a time when it was not open for local kids, and that's how we got into the school.
So at that point, though, considering there were even at that point, there were some very established schools I mean, you said you went to Royal College. Why would you want not go back there though?
Yeah, so there was a problem with the English education, and that was
Right,
the reason that I was sent off to boarding school also, because this international school expansion had not happened.
right.
There was very limited scope for English education. CIS had just started a few years before that. This was a more established school,
Right.
and that's why we came back here.
Well, Amir, thank you so much for being on the show. And you're someone who actually travels quite a bit, I heard.
Me? Okay. Yeah, a little bit.
That's what I heard. So getting a hold of you was also, was really good for us. Amir, you obviously have graduated way past both Murtaza and I have,
Yeah.
and things have definitely changed from that point onwards. I was just basically telling someone pretty much in the same era that it's nice to see that we've got a pool that we actually worked hard for but never swam in it.
Yeah.
We ran for it. We had bake sales. We had so many things going on. But 2018, how was it for you when you actually came into Overseas School of Colombo? I'm sure it was called Overseas School of Colombo when you joined
Yeah,
in.
it was. So I also went to a school in Sri Lanka. I was at the Asian International School, and then I came here. It was the end of 2013. I joined mid-year actually, and OSC was kind of always this, enigma. Nobody kind of knew. It's a little bit of a bubble, but once you come in, you realize how beautiful it is in terms of the diversity. And going to a school in Colombo, I had the foundation of having a lot of Sri Lankans around me, and that was great. I've been born and raised here. But then you come here, and I think one of the first things I really felt was, wow, I'm seeing probably people from 30, 40 different countries. And
Yeah.
that was one of the most beautiful. As you mentioned, I like to travel a little bit. So for me, that was really cool because I got to start spending time with these people every single day, and I was learning about a lot of different cultures. So that was probably the biggest shift for me.
Murtaza, what about some of the teachers that you remember who I suppose you must still basically be bumping into these days? Anything that someone back in time has actually told you still sort of drives you with what you do today?
So, from my recollection, who is around at the moment, of course, Mr. De Silva, who I bumped into again
Yeah,
this morning,
yeah.
and who invited me in 2018, and he writes a column in the papers. So, he's probably the only person that I have some connection with. He was a very good maths teacher.
Yeah.
So, I'm talking about in the 1980s. And even some of the students who studied under him, including my brother and sister-in-law, who actually met in this school and got married
Wow.
many years later, they were classmates, all remember him. And he was so good that he even tutored my sister, who needed to prep on maths when she was in university.
Right.
So she was doing economics, and in the Sri Lankan system, you don't study maths in A level if you go through the art stream. So he was one teacher that I have very distinct recollections of. There was a gentleman who has long passed away called Mr. Ekanatha. And if you have done the IB, which I believe still Overseas School of Colombo does, there was a subject called Theory of Knowledge. He was also a maths teacher, but he used to teach that theory of knowledge. And any kid that I meet who has done the IB, I always ask them, what do you think of theory of knowledge?
Right.
And I always ask them, what was your extended essay on?
Right.
Uh,
Gosh,
another
I haven't heard that term in a long time, extended essay.
Yeah. So that was an interesting project because that was the first time you write a deeper paper.
Yeah.
There is another teacher basically who also happened to bump in for very, very coincidental reasons. And he actually was one of the people instrumental in sparking my knowledge in economics.
Okay.
He was a 6'8" Australian gentleman called Ian Bailey.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yes, of course.
So so the typical Sri Lankan thing, I was always interested to go to engineering school. So I did the maths, physics, chemistry. But at the subsidiary level, I did economics. And that was my first formal training in economics. And I did an extended essay on the stock market.
Okay.
in 1987 or 88 when we had to submit it in. And I happened to go work in the stock market all my career. One of the things I'm doing.
Right.
Uh, I got married quite late in life. Was it in 2010 towards the end? And he happened to be in Sri Lanka. And my sister-in-law invited him for my wedding.
Nice.
So some of my schoolmates from that time also attended, and they were quite shocked. They were people like Marco Weidemann, who never went back. He has a leather factory in Sri Lanka.
Right.
Jacob Pringers, they had Lodestar, which
Yep.
then became Michelin and all of that, and they continued to live in Sri Lanka. So that was a coincidental meeting with him. And I'm quite involved in a public policy think tank called Advocata.
Yes.
And we had an Ignite Growth conference somewhere in May.
Okay.
And this was going on. And suddenly, after the first day, I get a WhatsApp again from Mr. Bailey
Oh, wow.
a few months ago,
Okay.
saying, "Hey, I've heard about your advocate, that his brother-in-law was watching something on YouTube and I appeared."
Right.
And he basically said, so I said, "Hey, come over."
Right.
So he and his wife came for the second day of the Advocata conference, which was on a Saturday.
Nice.
And I got him to sit right in the front, and it was hardcore economic analysis about productivity. We had a whole bunch of different industries talking about the challenges from digitization and all this picked me and so on. So he was nodding and listening, and I said, "Very interesting, very interesting. One of my students is involved in this." So those are two of my most distinct recollections of interacting with some of the teachers from that era.
Nice, nice. It must have been a great memory, as a matter of fact, because here's a teacher who obviously gave you the basics of economics, and you have him in an audience when you're actually right up there, as a matter of fact, in life, as far as an economist is concerned.
Yeah, so it was.
Yeah.
As I said, he could connect with the content.
Right.
And then he was kind of relating, because he's been all over the world, right?
Right.
So many different Latin America, etc., like what's happening in those economies, etc. So always you have a common thread to chat about.
Mrs. Rasiah, you, of course, I believe, must have most probably taught all three of us at Miss Rasiah. Taught all three of us at some point, I suppose.
Not, I've taught you,
Yeah.
but I think they started in the secondary or
Yeah, I haven't had the
Secondary.
pleasure.
Oh, right, okay.
so you're the only primary student.
I'm the only primary
From
student. So, Miss Rasiah, let's talk about the experience as far as OCS is concerned. I would like to continue calling it OCS because that's where we actually grew up with. How has the school changed from the time that you started till the time that you obviously retired?
Okay, so I started my career at Mutaya Road.
Right.
Then from there, the primary campus moved to Wichali when the numbers increased, and we were probably the last to come up to here at Paravatta.
Right.
So I mean, we thought we were being brought to a jungle because
at that
we
point.
had to travel
Yeah.
from there to this campus
Right.
for staff meetings
Right.
once a week, right? We thought we were coming to a jungle. But some of the memories I have is, we didn't have ACs and just fans. And when we had power cuts, it was so hot. I took my class outside to do lessons, read a book to them. We didn't have a pool, right? And today, AC is a luxury. I mean, we can't even stay without an AC.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because it's so warm and humid, but it is a luxury. There was no pool, no gymnasium, right? Even this basketball court, no. So, but gradually things improved. Each head of school has built something.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I would say that Mrs. Leggett
Yeah.
is the one who actually laid the stone for the pool,
Yep.
and she was behind it. There was Mr. I think Vince Sargent, and then Laurie McClellan, who actually did a lot for the gym.
Right.
Auditorium, the school went through some difficult times, and then that's when we had some restructuring. We had the head of school and two assistant heads rather. There was no primary principal per se, and I was one of the team leaders for the low primary. So when Peter Giddings, who was head of school, he said, I asked him, I said, well, every head of school has built something. What are you going to build? And he said, I'm not going to build anything. I just want a school that runs, because this was at the time of the war,
Right.
right? So it
Right.
was difficult, and the numbers had gone down. But before he left, he's the one who actually started off the auditorium.
Right.
So, I mean, that's great, because before we had the auditorium, we used to have our musical productions, like, during Christmas or all these. At the Lionel Went, we used to take children in buses, go there for the rehearsals. And it was, but this is such a, I mean, the campus, it's a beautiful campus because it has everything, right? Under one roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's and the resources, the books. I mean, we were not a IB school. I think the IB started first, and then PYP only started in 1992,
Okay.
right? So that was the last program to be launched, IB program to be launched. Yeah, so
So lots of really has changed along the
it
way.
has changed a lot, because we used only we used textbooks, right? For maths we had textbooks, for reading we had textbooks, but we no longer have per textbook for any subject. So we work, that's the beauty with that PYP,
Right.
because we work from different resources.
Right. Well, yeah, obviously the podcast series for International Teachers Day, as we're basically coming to you from the Overseas School of Colombo. We managed to get lots of alumnus on the show from different eras, the times that they've actually graduated. And what we're doing is we're sort of basically walking down memory lane of each and every single one of them to find out things that sort of reflect. I mean, at the end of the day, this is where we grew up. This is where our formative years actually was sort of laid. The foundation was laid right here. Aamir, of course, graduated in 2018. Aamir, was there a teacher you felt who actually got you? Because not many students can sort of say, everybody has something in terms of a teacher or two. Saying, I mean, I've got teachers who absolutely hated me, right? I walked into the, I can tell you the name, because unfortunately he's passed away, Mr. Newton Pereira.
Yes.
Mr. Newton Pereira was my physics
Since
teacher.
middle school, right?
That's right. It was my
Yeah,
physics
physics teacher.
I walk into his classroom and he asked me, "Why are you here?" Because he just didn't get me. I didn't get him.
Yeah.
That was a relationship. What about you? Was there a teacher who actually got you?
I think, like, even more generally with this school, what I found was there was a huge shift, because coming from, growing up in Sri Lanka and going to another school here, there is this dynamic that you're supposed to have with your teachers, where I think there's respect equals fear almost of your teacher.
Right.
And for me, that really changed when I came here, because I mean, I was always taught to respect my teachers, but you didn't have to have that fear for some. It was more like there was a camaraderie there. There was you were able to talk to them like just another person.
Yeah.
You had jokes with them, all of it, right? But they were still your teachers, and you
Right.
learned from them. Right. So I really, really loved that dynamic. And I say, even to this day, like, looking around and stuff, of course, because the teachers at OSC move around a lot, I can't say I know everybody here anymore. But the people who were there at my time, I mean, I'm still in touch with them, whether it's online or whether it's, some of them are still here. I socialize with some of them. And for me, that's really great. But if I had to kind of pick a few people, I remember it would kind of be towards, like, the start, because that was really, for me, the shift, because I was coming from one thing and entering this whole new dynamic of schooling, right? And my homeroom teacher at the time was Tracy Ramberg. She was here for about 3 years after I joined, and she kind of, also taught me the first few things. I had a good relationship with her. We had a lot of banterous, we had
Right.
jokes, and it was great. But at the same time, it kind of she taught me, like, how to think for this kind of education, right? Where critical thinking, the foundations were laid. And that was probably one of the first few people. There was my French teacher, Celine Derry. I'm in touch with her today. She's like one of my
Nice.
favorite
Yes,
people.
yes.
Nice.
She's
Yes.
so funny. We have, we have a great relationship. But again, these were the people I met as I joined. So I think for me, they really stuck with me, and it kind of, I grew very close to them as well. So if I had to pick a few people, there are a lot.
Yeah.
Rachel Jackson was in the arts, Loretta Duncan. I used to like to perform a little bit here as well.
Right.
So they kind of brought that for me. It was really great. I'm really close to the PE department, all of them, because I never played certain sports like volleyball,
Right.
and it was introduced to me at OSC, and I kind of, I got really close to the coaches and things like that because they encouraged me to try something new,
Right.
And I think my last year I was MVP. Don't know how that happened, but it's funny because you learn how to challenge yourself and to grow. And that was the kind of environment that was fostered here.
What about SISA? How many SISA teams were you part of?
I used to do 2 out of the 3 seasons. So I used to play badminton. I was badminton captain for the last 2 years. And then SISA volleyball I started doing also in the last 2 years.
Right.
So I loved that. And then also because I did a bit of the arts, I went for SISA music with Loretta Duncan. We went to Jordan.
Right.
That was really great. So for me, I like to, say that I really made the most out of this school and what it had to offer because it gave you everything.
That's right.
It was, coming from a different school here, the focus is usually on one thing, right? Either you really, really only care about your academics, or even in sports, you care about swimming because that's what the school's known for, or basketball, that's what the school's known for. Here, it's everything,
That's right.
and as just a kid, you have the opportunity to really develop whatever your interest is.
Yeah.
That was what was really unique to OSC for me. Really.
Was there a spot? Because almost every single individual in school, especially when you get to senior school, everyone had a spot in school, especially during breaks. I mean, I can show you what our spot was from here.
Yeah.
But did you guys have a spot? Like, during breaks, this is where we used to stay.
I think what happened with us was you kind of migrated based on where your lockers were, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in 12th grade, you had the lockers, I don't know what it is today, but it was the lockers overlooking the field.
Right.
So you like this gang, you kind of overtake that entire space.
That's right.
But we used to just really, I think we used to really live every part of this campus.
That's right.
Sometimes I remember when I was in 12th grade, because I think we had different lunch times, you'd see a bunch of these 17, 18-year-olds. We used to go and play at the primary playground. So that was really great. Sometimes I used to hang out in the black box, or the music room, whatever it was. So we really got to live in every aspect of this campus, which is what I loved.
Fabulous. Obviously, rekindling memories right here. We're just about to wind up our first episode of the series that we have for OSC, for International Teachers Day. Murtaza, if you are to go back a couple of years to your younger self, just before you graduated, what would you be telling yourself at that point that you sort of, really wouldn't, so something that something that you learned after, but you just didn't realize at that point itself?
So if I was to speak back to my younger self, I think the advice I would give myself is to stay focused.
Right.
Right. Sometimes at that age, you really don't know what you want to do. Right.
True.
So you need to explore, but whatever you do, you should do it with passion.
Right.
Because basically you shouldn't do things half-hearted. Once you decide I'm going to do something, even if you're not sure, you should give it your best shot. And sometimes in hindsight, when I have looked at situations and I said, I wish I tried harder or wish I focused more, because sometimes some of the things that you do, you don't see the payoff immediately,
Right.
but you
Correct.
see the
Yes.
benefit many, many, many years later.
True.
That's the advice I would give my younger self.
What is the one thing that you will never forget from this school that always has been there? Moment somebody says OSC or OCS, the first thing that comes into your mind is going to be what?
It's the only school that I went to which had girls.
It's like a different word.
At that adolescence age,
Yeah.
where girls matter.
You went to St. Paul's in Darjeeling.
And Royal College, which was all boys.
Boy.
So, initially I was quite awkward with girls.
Right.
And I recently went to Pakistan and somebody took me to their leading boys' school, which was like an Eton. And I said, the only problem here is there are no girls.
Right.
So the head boy and the other school prefect, he admitted that some of us feel awkward with girls.
Right.
So that initial shyness went away.
Right.
So when I went to university, it was normal basically.
Mrs. Rasiah, just before we wind up, one final question for you is: was there a moment in the 42 years that you were here that actually struck you as this is why I became a teacher? You know, something that really sort of stood out, a situation, a student, you know, a story that you can actually share with us, saying, "This is why I became a teacher."
Okay, I must say that when I was young, when I was schooling, I studied at St. Bridget's. I mean, teaching was never my, never what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a secretary. I wanted to do stenography.
Right.
But what inspired me and the person who actually wanted me to be a teacher was my father. You may not know, who was the accountant at the Overseas Children's School.
Really?
So when he retired, I became one of the assistant teachers. So it was his vision for me that I finally became a teacher. So if you ask me for a moment, I find it's hard to pick one moment, but I have touched the hearts of many students.
Yes, you have.
Right?
Yes, you have.
So even now, there are sometimes on Facebook they try to send me a friend request. Then I ask them, "Well, how do you know me? You were my teacher in grade 1, or you were my teacher in grade 2." So obviously, I have touched them in some way. So I feel I've touched the hearts of many. And I'm a very nurturing teacher.
Yep.
So. And I love my job, right? And I tell people, no matter who the head was, no matter who the principal was, I was sometimes the first to come and the last to leave, because was my second home, and I love my job. So I'm still passionate about education, and I still work I work for CIS as a evaluator for. I go on accreditation visits.
Right.
But I would say I really have touched the hearts of many. I mean, there were I remember one student here. She was a Norwegian child. She couldn't speak a word of English. She followed me to the toilet. She followed me to the staff room, because it was just me. That was the comfort she had.
Right. Yeah, fantastic.
So, yeah.
Great. Aamir, just before we wind up, finally, what's the one thing that, when someone asks you what school did you go to, you automatically say, listen, I went to OSC.
Yeah.
But immediately, what is that sort of, is right there recollecting in your mind?
Yeah, I was thinking about this obviously because you had asked me to come on this, and I don't do podcasts or anything. For me,
It wasn't too bad, was it?
No, painless. For me here, it was OSC taught me how to think, right? And I don't think in Sri Lanka that's people don't realize how important that is, because
Right.
a lot of what I find with the education system here, despite its positives, there is an element of sort of regurgitating what's in your textbook or something like that. And for me, the fact that I was given the freedom to think and to challenge even my teachers sometimes on ideas, and not feel like just because I was a teenager or whatever that my ideas didn't matter. There was they even if I said something contrary to what my teacher told me, they would ask me why I thought that,
Right.
as opposed to shut me down. Right?
It wasn't wrong.
And I always tell people, unless you went to this school, you don't understand the kind of environment that they allowed the kid to grow up in. And it's kind of, you felt protected as well, because you could be who you were. They encouraged you to be yourself. And then you kind of go out into the real world, and it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Because you go out into the real world, and then you realize that not everyone's going to welcome you or be on your side always, but that builds resilience. But to grow up, like you said, in your formative years, to have a safe space and to be taught how to think really for yourself, that to me is why OSC is such a special place, and also a leader in that aspect in education. So that's really what comes.
Fantastic. Miss Rasiah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Riaz.
Really?
And it's nice connecting with you again after many, many years.
Many years.
And I'm glad I had the opportunity to teach you.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Murtaza, thank you so much for being here and giving us details of how OSC or OCS was then, before our time, so to say. And Aamir, thank you. for
Thank
coming
you
on
for
the
having
show.
me. Thank
Had
you.
a great time. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was our first episode of our series for International Teachers Day, coming to you from the Overseas School of Colombo, bringing in some old students from different eras and different times that they actually graduated, along with some of the teachers who actually taught us. And we've got more coming up. We shall see you very soon.